Jock. Hello, and you're all very welcome to another great evening of entertainment here on Irish Television Chicago, coming to you from the Abbey Pub. I'm Steve Doyle, and as always, my good friend and co-host, Tom Looney.
Thanks, Steve. Tonight we have some great music from Pat Woods and the Irish Brigade. Later in the show, Martin Hayes will be talking with both members of the group.
Besides that, we have tonight Shea Duffin, who is going to be giving us a sample of his current stage show playing here at the Abbey Pub. He's got some great characterizations from the works of Brendan Behan, and he's got Confessions of an Irish Rebel by Behan, and also Chicago's favorite bartender, Mr. Doyle.
That's right, Steve. Brilliant stuff. We've seen it here. He started on Wednesday night, and he will be playing right through this weekend, the end of the month, on Sunday night. He will be playing here at the Abbey Pub. Right now, let's start the show with music from the Irish Brigade.
This next song now we're going to play is a song for you that was written by a fella called Andy Stewart. And Andy's from Scotland. He plays with a group every now and then with a group called Silly Wizard. It's a song that he wrote there a while back called The Ramblin' Rover. So we'll see what you think of this one here.
I drank another measure to the good friends that I treasure, for they're always on my mind. Oh, they're sober men of plenty, and drunkards barely 20. They're running way over 90. That is never a kiss a girl. Come with me to Ramblin' Rover, from Orkney down to Dover, and we'll roam the country over, and together we'll face the world. There's many's a vain enjoyment from the merciless employment. Their ambition has been a climate from the minute they left the school. Save and scrape and squander, well, the risk or out to squander. See the world have a good time and they're happier as a rule. Oh, there's sober men of plenty, and drunkards barely 20. There are men way over 90. That is never a kiss a girl. Come with me to Ramblin' Rover, from Orkney down to Dover, and we'll roam the country over, and together we'll face the world. With arthritis, and your bones has got colitis, you got galloping bronchitis, and you think it is time you died. You've been a man of action, though you're lying there in traction, you'll get some satisfaction, say it is at least I tried. Other sober men are plenty, and drunkards barely 20. There are men way over 90. That is never a kiss a girl. Come with me to Ramblin' Rover, from Orkney down to Dover, and we'll roam the country over, and together we'll face the world.
Our thanks to the Irish Brigade for the Ramblin' Rose. Well, let's continue the music now with a great performer who's no stranger to Irish Television Chicago. Here's Pat Woods to sing the Kevin Barry song.
In Mountjoy Jail, one Monday morning, high upon the gallows tree. Gavin Barry gave his young life for the cause of liberty. Just a lad of 18 summers, yet there's no one can deny. As he walked to death that morning, proudly held his head on high. Just before he faced the hangman in that dreary prison cell, British soldiers tortured Kevin just because he would not tell all the homes of his brave comrades and the things they wish to know. Turn informer or we'll kill you. Gavin Barry answered no. Calmly standing to attention while he bade his last farewell to his broken-hearted mother, whose sad grief no one can tell. For the cause he proudly cherished, this sad parting had to be. Then to death walked softly smiling, that old Ireland might be free. Another martyr for old Ireland, another martyr for the crown, whose brutal laws may kill the Irish, but can keep their spirit down. Lads like Barry are no cowards. From the foe they will not fly. Lads like Barry will free Ireland. For her sake they live and die. Thank you. Thank you.
The Irish American Heritage Center, located at 4626 North Knox Avenue in Chicago, was incorporated in 1976 for the purpose of establishing a permanent center to provide the facilities necessary to recognize and strengthen the proud heritage of Chicago's Irish community. Only through the generous help of area volunteers does the work at the center get accomplished. Through the donated time and efforts of the local tradesmen and craftsmen, the center is gradually transforming into a cornerstone for Chicago's Irish community. The center offers full banquet and theater facilities, plus classes such as traditional dancing and music. So enrich your life by becoming a member of the Irish American Heritage Center, located at 4626 North Knox Avenue. For more information, please call the center at 282-7035.
Thanks to the members of the Irish Brigade. Let's hear another selection from that group right now. It's called The Flower of Scotland.
Now we'll do a Scots tune for you called The Flower of Scotland, the unofficial national anthem of Scotland, followed up with a tune called the Atholl Highlanders March.
You said it right.
O flower of Scotland, when will we see your likes again? Who fought and died for your wee bit hill and glen that stood against them? Proud Edward's army and sent him homewards to think again. Those hills are bare now, and autumn leaves are thick and still. The land that we fought for, that we once dearly held, that stood against them. Proud Edward's army and sent him homeward to think again. O flower of Scotland, when will we see your likes again? Who fought and died for your wee bit hill and glen that stood against them? Proud Edward's army and sent them homeward to think again. To think again. To think again.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Welcome back to Irish Television Chicago. Now, coming up later in the show, as promised, is Shea Duffin, who's going to be giving us a personal look at himself and the characters he's portraying on stage right now at the Abbey Pub here in Chicago. First time back in Chicago for a long time.
That's right, Steve. Shea is back after a number of years. Most people would know Shea from his portrayal of Brendan Behan, and he played at the Apollo and another location in Chicago prior to that, but mostly from Brendan Behan. Now he's doing Mr. Dooley.
I understand it's
a Chicago
a great show.
character. Yes, it's a Chicago character. It's beautiful and very well done. Right now, let's join Mike Shevlin, who is in the news desk with the latest current events from Ireland and Chicago.
There's been optimism in Dublin this week that Unionist leaders are now prepared to engage in talks with the Republic's government. Official Unionist Party leader, Mr. James Molyneux, said he would be ready to make preliminary contact with Mr. Haughey involving an exchange of position, papers, and views. And Mr. Peter Robinson, deputy leader of the Democratic Unionist Party, indicated that his party would participate in talks concerning the future of Northern Ireland if the possibility of an alternative to the Anglo-Irish agreement arose. Mr. Robinson was responding to comments made by John Hume, the SDLP leader, who said that any agreement between the Unionists and Nationalists for coexistence would transcend in importance any agreement previously made. Both Mr. Molyneux and Mr. Robinson's party spearheaded the Ulster Says No campaign when the Anglo-Irish agreement was initiated. Unionist MP Mr. Ken McGuinness proposed a responsibility-sharing devolved government which would redefine relationships between the Irish and British governments. However, he asserted that neither a united Ireland nor integration with Britain were viable options. This breakthrough has been welcomed in Dublin by Mr. Haughey, who is expected to initiate preliminary discussions within the next week. Mr. Seamus Mallon, deputy leader of the SDLP, speaking at the Irish Association for Cultural, Economic and Social Relations in Dublin, told the association that there was a tremendous fluidity in northern political circles. Former Senator Mallon, who is now an MP, criticized the Unionist approach, which aims at creating structures before talking. He urged Unionist leaders to work out the realities first. Northern Secretary Mr. Tom King said he would encourage both parties to talk. The Royal Irish Rangers, the last Irish battalion in the British Army, are to take up duty in the north of Ireland this autumn. This is the first time the Rangers, which boast over 1,000 Irish members, have been sent on a tour of duty in Ireland since the present conflict began. Irish members of the British Armed Forces are seen by the IRA as legitimate targets. News that the Rangers will be operating in the 6 counties has raised fears of a new round of killings. Conradh na Gaeilge, a national organization committed to the preservation of the Irish language, held its annual conference this past weekend. President Ita Nikenny called for the development of a modern Irish language curriculum relevant to the needs and aspirations of young people, with an essential emphasis on giving the child the ability to speak Irish. The Conradh launched a new campaign of public meetings and pamphlet distribution to reiterate the importance and aspirations of the language in contemporary Irish life. Mrs. Nikenny criticized moves to downgrade the position of Irish in schools and reminded the conference of the extreme wealth contained in the Irish language of educational and literary content, from the oldest folk literature collection in Europe to its vibrant modern-day writings. Mrs. Nikenny's presidency was confirmed for another year unopposed. A new investigation into the case of the Birmingham Six is to be conducted by the City of London Police. This 4th inquiry surrounds allegations made by Chris Mullen, a British Labour Party backbencher. Mr. Mullen claims that Dr. Frank Skuse, the state forensic scientist and the original investigating officer, ex-superintendent George Reed, were in collusion as regards evidence. Mr. Mullen has forwarded a computer readout of telephone calls which show that Dr. Skuse and Mr. Reed were in frequent contact during the trial. Mr. Mullen also criticized the Irish government for what he called their diminishing interest in this case. News that British citizens will no longer require visas to enter the United States was angrily received by Irish communities here during the week. From July 1st this year, British citizens can enter the country with an unstamped passport. This follows pressure from Prime Minister Thatcher for a removal of the visa requirement because a similar visa is not needed by U.S. citizens entering Britain. However, the Irish American community is angry that the regulation was not extended to include citizens of the Republic, as Ireland does not require a visa for Americans entering Ireland. Dublin author Christy Nolan's autobiography, Under the Eye of the Clock, is at the top of the U.S. bestsellers list this week. 22-year-old Christy is a mute spastic. He writes by depressing his typewriter keys with a rod strapped to his forehead. His startling and sensitive autobiography recently won the highly coveted Whitbread Prize for English Literature. Mr. Nolan's writing, which has been compared to that of James Joyce, has been so successful in America that he was recently the subject of a special New York Times feature. He is currently working on a new novel at his home in Dublin. Christy Nolan's autobiography, Under the Eye of the Clock, is published by St. Martin's Press. Ireland's cycling fans have been celebrating once again with the victory of Sean Kelly in the prestigious Tour of Spain. The 32-year-old cyclist from Carrick-on-Suir won the 3,246-kilometer race wearing the leader's yellow jersey, easily beating closest contender Matthew Herman of Holland. Kelly warned that he is now ready to take the Tour de France title from fellow Irishman Stephen Roche. Last year, Roche won the Tour of Italy, the Tour of France, and the world title. However, just earlier this week, Roche announced that due to leg injuries, he would not compete in the Tour de France, but will be back to defend his world title championship in Belgium later this year. Well, that's our news for tonight. Right now, we present an editorial for Irish television. We here at Irish Television welcome the initiative of Congressman Joe Kennedy in bringing his Defense Authorization Amendment to the U.S. Senate. Members of the Irish American community have consistently voiced their concern over employment practices in the north of Ireland. We recently traveled to Springfield to support adoption of the 9 McBride principles in the State House. However, passive adoption is not enough. The publication of a white paper to remain on file is not enough. We believe that a bill of this magnitude is precisely what is needed to force the Irish, British, and American governments to take notice of overt discrimination in the workplace and, more importantly, to take action against such violations of civil liberties. The Kennedy legislation, if passed, will prevent foreign firms who engage in employment discrimination on grounds of race, color, or religion from being awarded important U.S. defense contracts. Mr. Kennedy's amendment is intended to have global impact, applying equally against any foreign firm in any country which discriminates against minority groups. We add our advocacy to this aspiration. Irish television abhors discrimination in Ireland or any country. This amendment should have a twofold impact. One, by its severe economic repercussions, the offending firm will be forced to end offensive and unjust discrimination practices, not just on paper, but as a practical reality. Two, a decline in the entrenched suspicions of a community which has been for so long torn apart and now faces a new decade in a harsh political and economic climate. Two, a decline in the entrenched suspicions of a community which has been for so long torn apart and now faces a new decade in a harsh political and economic climate. In adopting this amendment, the Senate will lend concrete support to the traditional U.S. commitment to oppose injustice and breaches of democracy wherever they occur. It is important that we realize that constitutional rights and values are not just our own to enjoy and celebrate. The true spirit of constitutional democracy is to reaffirm our belief in such privileges wherever they are tested, to make our voices heard when we see those values violated. We applaud Congressman Kennedy for the promotion of his amendment, and we call on the Senate to support its adoption. This has been a statement of opinion for Irish Television News, Chicago. The views expressed do not necessarily reflect the opinion of WCW Channel or Group W Cable. I'm Mike Shevlin. Good night.
Thanks, Mike. Now, after this next break, Eamonn Kelly is going to be giving us a view at some of the events taking place at Gaelic Park here in Chicago, so please stay tuned.
For the best in traditional Irish entertainment, join your friends at the Abbey Pub, the home of Irish Television Chicago, located at 3420 West Grace. The Abbey offers a wide variety of activities, including the best of Irish musicians from around the world on the main stage. And only a few feet away in the sessions room, you can share an informal musical evening with Christy Berry and other top players. The Abbey also features a Thursday night sing-around with Jim Duan of the Old Town School of Music, as well as a live radio broadcast every Saturday night. Featured this month on the main stage is the Abbey Folk and the Irish Brigade. So, whether you're in the mood for great live entertainment or just a friendly game of darts, you can find it and more at the Abbey Pub on the corner of Grace and Elston. Open weekdays from noon till 2 a.m., Saturdays till 3 a.m. And join us every Sunday from 10 a.m. till 1:30 p.m. for a traditional Irish breakfast.
This is Eamonn Kelly with a review of Irish sport. Last week we went out to Gaelic Park with a camera crew just to see what's going on out there as they are all preparing for the big Irish Fest over Memorial Day weekend. And here is what we found out at Gaelic Park. Well, it looks like the rain has subsided now. We've moved out from the inside of the great Gaelic Park banquet area and bar out to the outside. We're facing now the north side of the parking lot, and behind us here is the beautiful building. As you can see, the emblems of all of the 4 provinces of Ireland. We have the American flag here, the Irish flag. And beside me right now is Johnny Barrett, the current president of Gaelic Park, and we're very happy to be able to take a few minutes out here to have a word with him. And we want to focus not so much upon what has gone on in the past, but what's coming up in the next couple of weeks, and that's the big Irish Fest at Gaelic Park. Johnny, it's a pleasure to have a little chat with you here today at Gaelic Park. The sun is starting to shine right now, and we are, of course, trying to dodge the raindrops, which has been the case so much this afternoon. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Eamon. For your information, for the further weeks coming up here, as you already know, and you've already told your listeners, we have a giant festival coming up here in 2 weeks, Memorial Weekend, and that will be one of the highlights of our year. We have some other big events coming up later during the year, but this one coming up in 2 weeks' time definitely is the topping on the cake.
You know, John, outside of the hundreds of man-hours that's been put into preparing for this fest, can you give me some idea what the cost has been so far to put on such a big venture?
We estimate up to date somewhere in the vicinity of about $70,000 to float this thing.
That's before you even open the gate.
That's before we even open the gates.
That's that's a tremendous project, and that leads me to one other question. You know, last year you had a great fest here. It was somewhat, I was going to say ruined, but it wasn't ruined, but it was a disappointing weekend because of the weather, and still it was a success.
It was a success from the point of view it was our first one, and we were surprised ourselves at the turnout. It was a massive turnout. And we thought with the weather that we wouldn't have made it, but it was a success in terms of the money we took in and the amount of support that's generated for this year's festival. And I think it was a great success, and we're hoping for this year's one to be bigger and better, far bigger. And we have a far bigger program this year. And one of the features this year is when you pay your entrance fee coming in the gates, you'll get all the carnival rides free.
Oh, that's great.
Last year we didn't have that. And it was a case of ironing out a few things that we didn't do right last year, and we think we have them down pat this year.
And I think I remember listening to you on the radio show a couple of weeks ago, John. You mentioned about parents maybe are quartered to death by carnival rides, or trying to get the kids to try to at least satisfy them at the carnival. And I think this system this year where you just pay in the gate and then the carnival rides are free.
That's correct. And we do have, for this coming Memorial Fest, we do have a package deal for the weekend where it's $15 for all 4 days, and that would benefit the families a lot if they would avail of it. And
sure.
If anybody that's listening out there, if they want to call the park here, we have the tickets.
Great,
and
great.
like I said, it'll be much better this year in the sense that when you pay coming in the gate, that's about the last time you're going to pay unless you want to buy your pop or buy your refreshments.
Have you at all been able to get a forecast of what the weather is going to be that day? I know it's 2 weeks ahead, but I'm sure you guys are thinking of that and probably tried to get some forecast of the weather that particular weekend.
Well, we are hoping, and we are sending some guys on retreat this coming week and next week. We'll be checking with the authorities upstairs, so we're hoping for a good weekend. And if we do get a good weekend, it'll be a huge turnout here.
John, do you have a list of some of the events that are going to be taking place?
I do. We have a lot of big events here, starting, of course, with Brendan Grace, which is a very popular entertainer. Paddy Riley, I'll just give you a few. Tommy Macomb, Joel Daly and the Sundowners of the Channel 7
yes.
News, the Leahy family from Canada, the Tully Irish Dancers, And then there's the Carlton Show Band also from Canada, and we have some rock and roll groups. The Dancing Noodles is one of the big ones here on the south side. We have a lot of entertainment. We also have pony rides this year for the kids, which will be free as well as the whole thing. Yeah, we have a very good program. There's a lot of other groups here, our local groups, the Shannonairs, Pet Daly, the Eileen and Colleen Mulherron. There's the Foy Irish Dancers, the Shannonairs. There's lots and lots. Malone and O'Connell and Keane, and of course the Pipers.
Last year, as I remember too, you had a couple of big stages in on the field. And I know that it actually led to some problems later on in the year as far as playing Gaelic football and hurling. I know that you've taken some measures this year to try and avoid that happening again, realising, of course, that the weather had a lot to do with that.
Yes, it did. And we are taking steps this year to try and avoid a lot of the mistakes that we made last year, that being one of them. This year, of course, the surface on the field is much better, and I think it will hold up a lot better than what happened last year. Last year, we had some areas of the field that had been sodded, and the sod hadn't quite netted in, and that was part of the problem. But this year we are hoping that things will work out a lot better, and the field will be okay when it's all over.
The field is just beautiful out there, John. We were there just a little while ago. What did it cost to try and get that field prepared for this season?
We estimate that we spent redoing it again there in September, and that's why we cut the game short this past year. We figured it cost us about $15,000 to redo it. But this year, looking at it out there, and we've got compliments from everybody, it's really growing. We have to cut it 3 times a week.
Well, that's all the happenings out at Gaelic Park. So until next Monday evening at this time, this is Eamonn Kelly saying goodbye from Irish Sports.
Thanks, Eamon, for that feature on Gaelic Park. We now return to the main stage where the Irish Brigade is ready to play The Rambler from Clare.
This next tune is from County Clare. I'm not quite sure who wrote this one, but it's a very nice song here for you called The Rambler from Clare. So here we go. I am a young fella that's very well known. I've travelled through Galway and the County Tyrone. For work I've been searching through Cork and Kildare, for there's never a job for the Rambler from Clare. Through Kerry I've searched with no brogues on me feet. I was stranded in Sligo with nothing to eat. So in desperation I borrowed me fare. So it's goodbye to Ireland, says the Rambler from Clare. On the boat leaving Dublin I stopped at a bar where a big red-haired agent, he stood me ajar. He said up in Scotland they're building dams there, so there's plenty of work for the Rambler from Clare. So I went to Hawk Island and I dug a big hole. It was half a mile deep, held 10 million gallons of water, I swear, and most of it's wet from the Rambler from Clare. They will tell you my wool has never been seen. They called me the horse and the digging machine. The gangermen all love me, and the that's there, all admiring the strength of the Rambler from Clare. One day they were moving a bridge into place when a 50-ton crane fell flat on its face. The gauge of the bridge on me shoulders did bear. There's no crane in the world like the Rambler from Clare. But now my time
all come cold. In another 4 years I'll be 50 years old. All worn out and finished, but what do they care? For they got all they want from the Rambler from Blair. I am a young fella that's very well known. I've travelled to Galway and the County Tyrone. For work I've been searching through Cork and Kildare, but there's no job in the world for the Rambler from Blair.
Now, every week here at Irish Television Chicago, we try to offer a variety of interesting feature stories, and tonight is no different. We have with us that magical entertainer, the man from Dublin, Shea Duffin. Now, Shea is currently performing, as we've said, here at the Abbey Pub this week.
Yes, we managed to capture Shea doing some bits of his unique one-man show. Let's take a look.
Ah, there you are, Mr. Hennessy. It's nice to see you again. By the way, I saw your wife's sister go running by here this morning at a fast gallop, wrapped in a blanket. So I stopped her and I asked her, was the house on fire? Can you imagine the shock that I got when she told me that she was running around the block to lose weight? Now, why would a woman like her want to lose weight? She looks all right to me. Of course, nearly everybody I know nowadays is trying to lose weight. Historians will probably refer to this year as 1905, the year of our lard. Now, why would a woman want to be thin unless she is thin? The idea of all female beauty that all great men, from Julius Caesar to myself, has held, is more equal to a barrel than a clothes pole. Oh, my friend Hogan tells me that Caesar's missus and Alexander the Great's wife, well, they were no lightweights. And Martha Washington, she was short and pleasantly dumpy. And Andrew Jackson's wife, well, she was 200 pounds and smoked a pipe. And nearly all the famous romantic poets that I know of, well, they were in love with, not to say fat, but ample ladies. Because you see, Hennessy, when a poet spends a whole day poeting at a typewriter, he wants to go home and rest his head on a soft shoulder, not on a spike. And all the famous paintings that I've seen of beautiful ladies, sure, they had as many chins as they did curves. So now drink up and let me have a drink myself.
I'm going on camera intentionally. That's perfect.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Ah, there's no place on earth like the world. There's no place wherever you be. There's no place on earth like the world. That's straight up and take it from me. Never throw stones at your mother. You will be sorry for when she is dead. Oh, never throw stones at your mother. Throw bricks at your father instead. I was brought into this world at a very tender age. And by American standards, I'm Caucasian, European by promotion, and Irish by a bloody great stroke of luck. And I soon discovered that the most important thing in this life was to get something to eat, something to drink, and someone to love you. And if you're in good health and you have the price of a drink, love and death can be mourned in comfort. But God forgive us in all harm. Sure, didn't most of us grow up to be the sort of people that our parents warned us against? Ireland's national pastime. Well, Mr. Dooley, he's easier to do than Brendan because Brendan was always half-bombed anyway. But Mr. Dooley was a fairly upright character. I've based him on a character that I knew back in Dublin. And an old guy who knew everything about everything. Now you saw me there doing 2 excerpts from both my shows, in which you saw me wearing my 2 hats, or I should say my 1 hat and a pint of Guinness. The only thing I always have to remember is which side of the bar to do the show on, because one night I'm doing Bean and I'm doing Brendan in repertory, as we people in theatre call it. One night I'm doing Brendan, other nights I'm doing Mr. Dooley. And but I do know which side of the bar I should go to every night, because you do have to. I prepare myself on the ride down from the hotel or wherever. It's easy, basically, once you get here and you see which end of the bar that the stool is. That's where I know what show I'm supposed to be doing. But they're both great fun, because they're both very diversified characters. Yet they're all saying the same things. They were both very honest, very knowledgeable characters, and. Whereas Mr. Dooley was based in Roscommon. Now, for those who do not know who Mr. Dooley was a character created by a Chicago newspaper man by the name of Finley Peter Dunn, who used to write weekly newspaper columns in the Chicago Post, I think was his first newspaper. In 1892 was his first one, and he wrote those columns until 1912. And he wrote all these columns, social, satirical comment of the day, and he wrote them all through the eyes of an Irish barman named Mr. Dooley on the south side of Chicago, in Bridgeport, actually. And so the columns were very, very popular. And most people in Chicago who would say over 30 years of age will know who Mr. Dooley is. Now, Brendan Beam, now Mr. Dooley was placed in Roscommon, so I have to do a Roscommon accent, because all the stuff was written in thick Irish dialect, T-I-C-K-O-I-R-I-S-H-D-I-L-K-T. But as Brendan Beam, I'm playing a neighbour of mine. Brendan lived just streets away from me back in Dublin, where I grew up, and I remember this chubby, ruddy-faced fella coming up, weaving a path up from the local pub, and playing football with us kids and such and such. And now on stage, I actually wear a pair of his own shoes. His widow Beatrice gave me a couple of pair of his shoes, a couple of ties, a couple of shirts. So I really get into the character. And Brendan is a much more complex character than Mr. Dooley. Mr. Dooley is straight out with just philosophies. Brendan, in the Brendan Bean show that I do, you see the inside of Brendan, the tormented alcoholic, the young Irish rebel that was locked up for 9 years in a foreign country when the British picked him up and charged him with treason just because he had a little bit of a chemistry set in his pocket, and he was looking at a battleship in the shipyards of Liverpool. And they stuck him in Borstal for 3 years. Borstal is English for reform school. And then when he got out of Borstal, he came back to Ireland, got involved with the movement once again, and he got sentenced to 15 years in jail. But they let him out after 6. So he spent 9 of his 41 years in jail. He drank himself to death in 1964, but he did manage to write some of the best plays to come out of Ireland in the past 30 years. So it's kind of easy for me to play Brendan because I knew him personally.
The Irish American Heritage Center, located at 4626 North Knox Avenue in Chicago, was incorporated in 1976 for the purpose of establishing a permanent center to provide the facilities necessary to recognize and strengthen the proud heritage of Chicago's Irish community. Only through the generous help of area volunteers does the work at the center get accomplished. Through the donated time and efforts of the local tradesmen and craftsmen, the center is gradually transforming into a cornerstone for Chicago's Irish community. The center offers full banquet and theater facilities, plus classes such as traditional dancing and music. So enrich your life by becoming a member of the Irish American Heritage Center, located at 4626 North Knox Avenue. For more information, please call the center at 282-7035.
Good evening. I'm Breach Looney, and I'm here this evening to share with you the upcoming events at the Irish American Heritage Centre. In addition to our regular scheduled events, we have new and exciting programs weekly. Remember, we are here to serve you. So whenever you have an occasion to have a party or a celebration, just call us here at the Centre and we will provide you with the perfect hall at a reasonable rate. Our office hours are 9 to 4 daily, and the phone number here is 282-7035.
It's time now to get back to our featured group of the evening, the Irish Brigade. You know, it seems that over the past couple of weeks, the Irish Brigade has built up quite a large following here at the Abbey Pub.
Here they are once again to sing for us. I wish they'd do it now.
Hope you enjoy it. I was born of Irish parents one day when I was young. That's how the Irish dialect became me native tongue. That I was a pretty baby, me mother she would vow. Ah, the girls all ran to kiss me and I wish they'd do it now. Oh, I wish they'd do it now. Oh, I wish they'd do it now. I've got itches in me britches and I wish they'd do it now. When I was only 6 months old, the girls would cuddle me. They'd clutch me to their bosoms and they'd bounce me on their knee. They'd rock me in the cradle, and if I made a row, they'd cuddle me and tickle me. I wish they'd do it now. Oh, I wish they'd do it now. Oh, I wish they'd do it now. I've got itches in me britches and I wish they'd do it now. At 16 months as fine a lad as ever could be seen, the girls all used to follow me right down to the green. They'd make a chain of buttercups, drop it on me brow, then roll me in the clover. Woo, I wish they'd do it now. Oh, I wish they'd do it now. Oh, I wish they'd do it now. I've got itches in me britches and I wish they'd do it now. The Easton girls would call on me to swim when it was mild. Down to the river we would go and splash about a while. They'd throw the water over me, duck me like a cow, then rub me nice all over. Yeah, I wish they'd do it now. Oh, I wish they'd do it now. Oh, I wish they'd do it now. I've got itches in me britches and I wish they'd do it now. It's mighty lonely for a lad to lead the single life. I think I'll go to the dance tonight and find myself a wife. It's I have 6 fine brindle pigs, likewise 1 big fat sow. There'll be plenty of love and bacon for the girl who'll have me now. For the girl who'll have me now. For the girl who'll have me now. There'll be plenty of love and bacon for the girl who'll have me now. Oh, wish they'd do it now. Oh, I wish they'd do it now. I've got itches in me britches and I wish they'd do it now.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, once again, we've come to the end of another show.
You've been watching Irish Television Chicago, broadcasting from the Abbey Pub.
Our thanks to our news and sports team, as well as Martin Hayes for arranging the very fine entertainment this evening. Remember, we're going to be on again next Monday night at 7 o'clock on Channel 25.
A special thanks to you, the viewers, for spending the past hour with us. We close out tonight's show with Jerry Herrington playing Kerry Slide.
And so until next week, I'm Steve Doyle with Tom Looney, Slán and August Bonnick.
Good night.
For the best in traditional Irish entertainment, join your friends at the Abbey Pub, the home of Irish television Chicago, located at 3420 West Grace. The Abbey offers a wide variety of activities, including the best of Irish musicians from around the world on the main stage. And only a few feet away in the sessions room, you can share an informal musical evening with Christy Berry and other top players. The Abbey also features a Thursday night sing-around with Jim Duan of the Old Town School of Music, as well as a live radio broadcast every Saturday night. Featured this month on the main stage is the Abbey Folk and the Irish Brigade. So whether you're in the mood for great live entertainment or just a friendly game of darts, you can find it and more at the Abbey Pub on the corner of Grace and Elston. Open weekdays from noon till 2 a.m., Saturdays till 3 a.m. And join us every Sunday from 10 a.m. till 1:30 p.m. for a traditional Irish breakfast.